Welcome to the Organisational Inclusionist. I'm your host, Grace Mosuro. In this podcast series, we'll be delving deep into the pressing issues surrounding equality, diversity, and inclusion in both the workplace and the broader world. My goal is to foster understanding, inspire change, and amplify the voices of those advocating for a more inclusive and equitable society. Throughout this series, I'll be engaging in candid discussions with leaders, experts, activists, and changemakers from various fields. We'll explore the challenges, successes, and evolving landscapes of equality, diversity, and inclusion. From dismantling systematic biases to promoting equal opportunities for all, we'll touch on a broad range of topics. But we won't stop at discussing problems. We'll actively seek out solutions and actionable steps to drive positive change. Our aim is to inspire and empower you, our listeners, to take an active role in making the world a better place for everyone. This is the Organisational Inclusionist. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Organisational Inclusionist. My name is Grace Mosuro and I am your host. Today I am joined by Wise Tola, Tola Onigbanjo to be specific. So Tola, as I mentioned, is also known as Wise Tola for many, many reasons. She is a visibility coach, an author, a former radio personality, and also the co-founder of Women for Africa. Women for Africa is the one. Okay, we will talk about that in a bit more detail later, but I just had to start the video with that because I've been to the Women for Africa Awards for the first time this year, and it was just out of this world. And Tola and her husband are the face behind and the minds behind that great initiative. So today's episode is really about Women for Africa, but also Tola's great work as a visibility coach. I think that visibility is something that women, but particularly Black women, aren't very good at doing. You know, we need visibility coaches. We aren't necessarily raised to shine or to like stand out or to really create spaces for ourselves and use our voices. So I really want to speak to that, and also speak to any of our listeners that are feeling like, actually, do you know what I could do with a visibility coach, and wanting to understand a little bit more about what that looks like. So Tola, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Before we get stuck into the conversation, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to our listeners. So who is Tola and what do you do?
So my name is Tola Onigbanjo. A lot of people call me Wise Tola. The name came about just through an email address that was created for me. And the email was wisetola at. So that name kind of stuck when I'd give people my email address. But Wise Tola, Tola Onigbanjo, who am I? A mother of 5, grandmother of 4. And I just love to do stuff. So like you mentioned, founder with my husband of Women for Africa. That's an awards that we do, and I absolutely enjoy doing that. Also, visibility coach. I believe that showing up is key, and we owe it to ourselves to show up as Black women. And also, I've been in the entertainment industry for a number of years as well. I love pushing upcoming artists, giving them a platform to express themselves, and also just connecting them with other industry like-minded individuals. I am an author of a book. The book is on step parenting because I am a step parent. And I just felt it was useful to put something out there that people could read and refer to help them even when they're in a step parenting situation. But it's also a good read for parents as well. I believe that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. And what's your book called?
The book is called Steps, a guide to successful parenting, step parenting.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So can we start with, and I've already kind of hyped it up a little bit, but I think it's always great to hear from you, the creator. So can we talk about Women for Africa? Like, what was it that really sparked your desire to start the initiative? And what is Women for Africa for anyone that hasn't been or doesn't know anything about it?
Okay, Women for Africa. Women for Africa is an annual awards where we celebrate ordinary women who are doing extraordinary things. How it started as an idea, and the name came about as an idea in my bedroom, me and my husband, just one day. But it kind of like started way before that. And I started doing hair as a teenager, and that's because I was raised by my dad. Me and my siblings were raised by my dad, and my dad couldn't do mine and my sister's hair, so we always used to have our hair shaved. And I think it was just convenient for him because he didn't know
Mm.
how to do our hair. And going to the hairdressers back then was probably a myth in our household. But so yes, me and my sister would go to school board, and getting tired of going to school with no hair on our heads and getting teased, I decided I was going to learn how to do my hair. So I'd go to the hair shop and buy the 49p horsehair, because that's what they used to call it back in those days, the synthetic hair, because it was so coarse. And I would practice trying to put this hair in my head, practice trying to put it in my head. And I got to the point where I was able to do it, and I started braiding my own hair, braiding my sister's hair. Then my friends at school would want their hair braided. I'd braid their hair too. Then their mums would now want their hair braided. I'd braid their hair too, and their mums would pay me. And I thought, oh, this is really good. And then I got a Saturday job at a salon, braiding hair as well. And it just kind of like took off from there. So when I left school, I was working in the bank. I was working for Barclays. And I think after a few years, because I was doing hair at the weekends, after a few years, I thought I could actually do this, because there were so many people phoning up wanting their hair done, but I just didn't have the time. So
Mm.
I later registered myself as self-employed, and I started doing hair one-on-one at my house, at home. And I would just hear stories from women. They'll just talk about their issues. They will talk about what they're going through. They'll talk about what they're doing, what they've accomplished, how they're getting on. And I was just so inspired by some of these stories. You look at these women and think, you wouldn't know that that woman is going through that, but she is really going through it and still getting on with it. And I
Mm.
thought to myself, if I can be inspired, other women can be inspired too.
Mm.
And I knew I wanted to do something, but I just didn't know what it was, just to, get other people inspired by these stories. And so when that name came that day in the bedroom while me and my husband were just like chilling, I said, that's it. Women for Africa. That's it. I'm passionate about women. You're passionate about Africa. And we're going to do an annual awards. And
Mm.
that's how we just started planning the whole process. And then we did our first one in 2012, and it was a huge success. And so we just have a format, and it allows us to just meet women that we would not meet, because we wouldn't even have an idea of who these women are or where they
Mm.
are. And that's why it's one of those awards that it's the public that nominates. So we don't nominate, so it's not based on a friend thing or who thing. The public nominate, and then we have an independent panel that selects the finalists, and then independent judges that pick the winners based on merit. So that's kind of like how it just started, and it just took off from there. So we always get people, we can finish the award this week, by next week somebody's in the mailbox, how do we nominate, when's the next one, that kind
Mm.
of. So there's always people ready to nominate amazing women who are doing extraordinary things. And so we just created the platform that we can celebrate these women, and people can just come together on that day and celebrate these amazing women and just be a part of the celebration. And that's what Women for
Amazing.
Africa is.
Amazing. And this was the 10th anniversary of
Yes,
the
it was.
awards, wasn't it? So how have you seen the transition from year one to year 10? Like, what was your biggest, or what are you most proud of with what you've achieved so far?
I think for me, it's the consistency, being able to do it. I mean, lockdown took 2 years, but I mean, that 2 years we were able to have a break. We were able to have a break and also plan how we wanted to do it bigger and well, not so much bigger because it's already
Mm.
big, but better, so that we could really perfect what we were doing with it. So I mean, during lockdown, it gave us the time, because when we started, and for the first 8 years, no, for the first 7 years, we were doing it in Kensington Town Hall.
Mm.
And that's where we were doing it. We were using the Great Hall in Kensington, and we were doing it there. And, we'd have loads of vendors and everything, but it was a lot of work, because then it's just a hall
Mm.
that you're given, and then you have to make everything else happen. The decor, the serving, the setup, everything like that. So during lockdown, it kind of gave us time to plan. How can we make this thing much better, but less work on us, because it was a lot of work on us and the
Yeah.
team. And then we decided, like, let's move it into a hotel, because then the good thing about the hotel is that they do the serving, they do the setup and all of that. They do the clearing up. So we didn't have to do all of that we were doing at Kensington. It just meant it was going to cost more for those attending. But then it was definitely worth it, because now it just took it up a notch for us.
Mm,
So yeah, that for me, and the consistency has been the two things that, yeah, have helped.
amazing. And I feel like, like when you have serial entrepreneurs like yourself, there usually is a common thread that goes through all of their businesses. And I very much feel like visibility for women is that common thread for you. Like even when you were doing hair, it was about confidence and how a woman felt and how she showed up. To now Women for Africa, but also your work as a visibility coach. Like it's very much about empowering women,
Yes.
which I absolutely love. Can you talk us through the visibility coach that is Tola? Like what led you to start that piece of work, and what does that look like for you?
Well, for me, I looked at Women for Africa, and one of the things that people that attend or people that know about Women for Africa is they look at it and they say, "Wow, how are you able to do this, or how did you get it to be the way that it was?" And I always used to say at the beginning, me and my husband, we would say that we want, when people hear the name Women for Africa, even if they haven't attended, they've heard about it or they've seen it, so that we're really, really visible. And I remember there was a day that, our red carpet host that does the interviews, that does the red carpet interviews, she was interviewing a couple. And I think the guy said to her, I think it was the guy from the couple said to her, that who is it that handles your social media, because you guys are everywhere. And that is the plan, to be
Yeah.
everywhere, to be seen, to show up everywhere, because I always say that people can't see what you're not showing them, and that for me is visibility. They can't see what you're not showing them, they won't hear what you're not telling them, so you have to show up so that people can see. And for me, so when people used to ask, I would say to them, visibility is key. You have to be visible, whether you're going to be visible with your voice, whether you're going to be visible with what you do, your product, your service, but it has to be out there, because a lot of people complain that, oh, I don't get enough likes on my post, or, people are not seeing, how am I going to get people to see what I'm doing? But you have to be visible, and visibility doesn't have to take up the whole day, doesn't have to
Mm,
take up all of your time. I remember I launched my book in 2007, my book on steps. I just did a revised edition of it last year. But when I launched it in 2007, I knew that it wasn't just going to be enough for me to just take it around to my friends and say, here's my book, buy my book. I had to be visible with it out there. So I then had a website. I created a website for it. So it was on a website, because people can now go to the website that I don't know from anywhere in the world and just see that there's a book. So for me, it was about showing them. They can't see what you're not showing. So
mm,
if I put a website there, I'm showing my book, and then they can see it. And so I remember I got a call in the cinema one day. I was in the cinema and I got a call, and I didn't recognize the number. So I just picked it up quietly, not to disturb people. And then, the woman was like, "Hi, I'm here from, was wondering if you could come on Sky Sunrise, tomorrow with Eamon Holmes to talk about parenting during the summer holidays." And I was
love that.
like, whoa. And I said to her, I said, "I'm just in the cinema at the moment. Can you call me back in an hour?" And she said, "No problem." And I thought to myself, oh my God, how am I going to be on Sky Sunrise? I haven't done that kind of thing before. And I just thought to myself, well, anyway, hopefully she doesn't call back, because she probably won't call back now. She might go and look for somebody else. But she did call back when I was driving home, and so she said it's on Sky Sunrise. It's talking about parenting in the summer holidays, like, because 6 weeks holidays was coming up, and that kind
Mm,
of, I think it was just covering a segment and that. So I said no problem. They sent a car to pick me up. I mean, I don't think it was even up to 2 minutes on there, like how they have you. But the
yeah.
good thing is, they prepare you beforehand, so you have that talk with Eamon, and he gets you comfortable, and then you come home and you're sitting there with two other people, and and just covering the topic. So yeah, it's probably about 2 minutes, and I was getting pictures sent from friends that were watching it, because I didn't even have time to put it out there that I was going to be on this show. But then
Yeah,
I get home and I see people tagging me on Facebook in pictures of me on Sky, and
I
and
love
that kind of thing. But it was a pleasant surprise. But I said to somebody, because somebody said, "Oh, how did you get on that?" And I said, "You know what? It has to be be the website. When they want to cover a segment and they have people looking for people that can fit in that segment, they'll go online. So you have to have a digital footprint, and that's why I teach invisibility. You have to have a digital footprint for what you do, because even with our Women for Africa, you have women that are doing amazing stuff, and you know them personally that they're doing that stuff. But if there's nothing out there for people to see, nobody else can verify that. And that's sometimes what some of our judges will say when our judges come up and talk on the awards night. They will talk about those kind of things and say, like, your digital footprint is important, because even though you send us stuff, we still go online to go and look at the things that you do. So they're able to see, because sometimes you might not send them everything, but they go online and they think, wow, this person's doing amazing work. And that's because you have a digital footprint. But if you don't have anything out there and you're just saying, I do 10 different things, if there's no evidence of those 10 different things, it's just you saying that. So I think having that out there, the website was there, they went to Google and looked and found, and then that's how she just gave me the call, and I was there on Sky Sunrise that way. So I always tell people, show up and be seen. That's my thing. And showing up doesn't have to be you physically, but you have to make sure your product is showing up, your services are showing up, your voice is showing up, if it's speaking that you do, so that people can hear you. And so that's why visibility is so important, so important.
Amazing. So what does it look like then if someone says, I want to do visibility coaching with you? How do you work with them?
So what I do is because a lot of the people that I work with, they have either Instagram account that they don't know how to use. They're registered on Instagram, but they're not using it properly. Some don't. I remember there was a guy that joined. I kind of like what I normally do. I do 30 days, the 30-day visibility challenge. So it's 30 days that you'll do with me a month. And I had a guy that wanted to join because he had a book on parents, role models, and that kind of thing, but he didn't know how to push it out there further. He was on Facebook, but he was not on Instagram, and he hadn't used Instagram before. So I said to him, the first thing you need to do is you need to set up an Instagram page, because I'm doing visibility with people, but Instagram is the focus. You can replicate what you're posting on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, or anywhere else you want, but we're focusing on Instagram. So he set up his Instagram account, and till date, I think he now has 2 or 3 Instagram accounts for his different books. And he is showing up. I mean, I go on, sometimes I log in and I see him, he's done a live and things like that. So he was really, really using it. So every time I was doing a 30-day challenge, he would register to do it. So what I do is I give them daily tasks, and I say to them, it's not just enough to just post on Instagram and that's it. I teach them how to do engaging posts. Try and get engagement on your post so you have that interaction, because we know that with a lot of social media, it's about the algorithms. You want to prompt the algorithm so people are seeing your stuff. So I get them to create posts that are engaging. I get them to introduce themselves, because they have an Instagram page and they just post, but then you got to remember that new people might be seeing or going to your page. They need to know a bit about you. So I get them to do an introductory post. So it might be a post today is about you introducing yourself. Tell your audience 5 things about yourself. And some of the things that I would get that they were putting in the group, that, oh, but I've known so-and-so. I've known you for like over 20 years. I didn't know that about you. And that was just from the introductory post, even though these people know each other, because what I do is I make sure that we have a WhatsApp group. So the community is there, and people are sharing. And then I get some of the older people, older members, when I say old, not age, but have been in my classes before and keep coming back. I now get them to teach some of the new people in the group as well, some of the things. So when they're asking, how do I do this? One of the other members can now show them how to do it, because they've learned how to do it and they now know how to do it. So they'll record a video and put it there. So I think the accountability and the community, because once I've set them the tasks, I set them daily tasks. So I do a calendar, so they can either have the calendar weekly or monthly. It's there. So they'll know what they have to post every day for the 30 days. And it's more than 1 task a day. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 tasks for the day, but they get to do it. And then they will now do the task. So once they've completed, they have to now put in the WhatsApp group done. Once they put in the WhatsApp group done, all the other people see their job is to go to their post, like and comment, and be part of that engaging community on their post as well. So I get them to do stuff like, okay, do a post and ask people to tag 3 friends. So what that's doing is that's bringing 3 of their friends that don't know you onto your post now, because they've been tagged in a post. So people will go and
Mm,
see what they've been tagged in. So it might be a simple post like, tag 3 friends that you will take with you on your next holiday. So then they'll now tag their friends, and their friends will now come on and comment, oh, thank you. So when are we going on holiday? So
yeah.
that's putting engagement on that person's post, moving the algorithms, and, allowing their post to be more seen, those
Mm,
kind of things. But I also get them I always say to them, there are more than one avenue to Instagram. It's not just posting on your page. You have to use your story, you have to use reels, and you have to go live. Use all
mm,
of the avenues and get engagement on all of them. So sometimes they have to create a reel, sometimes they have to go live on their story. So some of them have never gone live before, but they have to now go live, and then they have to put in the group when they're going live, what time they're going live. So those of us that are free can now be on their live to listen to them, so they
yeah.
at least have people on their live. So that's kind of like how we do. And then at the end of it, they send in their testimonies of what it's done, what has happened as a result of, being more visible and showing up. And then a lot of them are now doing a lot of the stuff that they weren't doing before, and they're active on their page. Because then every now and again I'll message them and say, you are so visible, I've been seeing you every day, like, kind of thing. And so it's kind of like got them, because what I do is with what I set them, they can set a format for it. So like Monday, I can say Monday can be motivational Monday, so you put a motivational post. It can be money Monday, depending on what they do. So it could be mindful Monday if they want to, so they come up with what they want to. Tuesday, I say, can be trending Tuesday, it can be top tip Tuesday, it can be thoughtful Tuesday. They can come up with something, so that if they have a formula for each week and what they post each day, they can now prepare a post. Or even when they're out, they can see something and say, right, that's going to be my motivation for next week, Monday, and create a post around that, so they can start to set stuff. But when they have the calendar, what they can do is they can get their stuff ready beforehand, because sometimes
Mm,
they can sit down and think, oh, I don't know what to post today. So
yeah.
having a template helps them to know, and they can prepare their stuff. They can prepare their reels and all of that kind of thing. So Wednesday can be Wisdom Wednesday, Winning Wednesday, whatever formula they want to, and then they have it. So that way they know that, right, if I'm doing Winning Wednesday, let me think of a winning post. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about them. It can be
Mm,
about someone else, but they'll tie it to what they do and make sure it fits what they do. And then it just helps them, because now they don't have to think, what shall I post on Wednesday? Wednesday is Winning Wednesday, or Wisdom Wednesday, or Woman Crush Wednesday. So let me look for, and then they create their post around that. So yeah, and then I get them to use all the different apps. So I introduce them to free apps, because I say to them, there's no excuse of not being able to post. And I teach them in visibility, you're going to become content creators. So you'll be creating content. You don't have to look for somebody. Can you design this? Can you make this? There's apps that do those things for you. So you can use it and create your templates and those kind of things. So I introduce them to the free apps and tell them how to use it, so they can edit their videos, they can edit their posts and things like that. And then they use all of those kind of things. So there's all the apps. They don't have to upgrade to the premium if they don't want to, but it's there, and the free ones can do the job that they need it to do.
mm. I am terrible with Instagram. It's funny, when you were talking, I was getting tired with the idea, like, oh, I've got to do all of this on Instagram. The only platform that I use is LinkedIn, and that's because I'm lazy. I do have Instagram. I do have Instagram. I do have TikTok. I think those are the only ones. I've got Facebook, but only because I thought I had to have Facebook to have Instagram. I now know you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it. It does take work. It takes commitment. And I know that it yields fruits for some people. I think sometimes I'm 40, so I feel old, right? So when I go on Instagram sometimes and I see some of the things people are doing and the way people are loving it, I'm like, I'm not dancing. I'm not doing it.
No, but you see, what you have to do with Instagram is you have to follow people that are doing similar to what you're doing,
Mm,
and and share people that you share the same interest with, and then those are the kind of posts that will come up. I remember when I was when I was doing jump rope during lockdown, I created a specific Instagram for that, and I was just following people that were doing jump rope. And I just found out that there was a whole community on Instagram
yeah.
of people around the world that actually do jump rope, from young people to women in their 50s and 60s, and come and see the skills that they were. I mean, I had to now start. If my kids will see me in the front room and I'll be like, I'm going to learn that. I'll put on YouTube and I'm like, I'm going to master that skill because these people are, and so I just found that there was a whole community. So the only thing that would come up when I'm in that account is people that are jump roping and new people that I'm not following that jump roping, and I'll just be following them and just watching their pages and thinking, wow, so I think once you start following people that are doing what you do, then that's when you'll see those kind of things, and that's how inspiration can come, and that's how you learn things as well from those kind of people. But the reason why I say to them, I say Instagram, but they can replicate it on other platforms. And I say there are people that are on Facebook that are not on Instagram. There are people on Instagram that are not on Facebook. There are people that are on LinkedIn, but they're not on the other. So I say to them, as many platforms as you can use them. You can replicate most of the stuff that you do on Instagram on the other platforms. I would just say with LinkedIn, keep it more professional. So a lot of stuff that I post on like my social media, it will be different to what I post on LinkedIn because that's more a professional platform. But what you post on Instagram, you can probably post on Facebook, you can probably post on your TikTok and, like those kind of things. So I just say to them, as many as they can manage, but they can replicate stuff. So it's not that you have to create a different content for each of the different ones. Just be mindful of what you're posting on LinkedIn and how you're posting it.
See, I've already taken so much away from this conversation, just from this Instagram conversation. Seriously, I feel like I'm going to do a Winning Wednesday post looking mash up, but it is what it is. And we're going to talk about the fact that Wednesday can still be winning if you feel mash up. So, no, I love it. And I think...
And you can do Fitness Friday because I saw you in the gym. I saw your gym post.
Yes, that's true. I'm at the gym almost every day. So that is an easy one. Thank you. Growing up, so I'm Yoruba Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria. I moved to the UK when I was 5. And my parents, my mum in particular, growing up, she was very much, my dad as well, actually, anything that happens in this house, you don't discuss it with anybody. It's nobody's business. Whatever you're doing, you just keep it to yourself. You just keep your head down, this, that, and the other. And so I took a lot of that conditioning into my adulthood. So when I became an adult, it was like, do I even want to be on Instagram? Because then people see my business, and do I want to be visible? Because growing up, I was taught not to do that. And, one of my mum's thing was, and I remember her saying this a lot, is, you don't know what people wish on you and you don't want to be giving them too much visibility. Like even when I was pregnant with my daughter, my mum was like, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Unless they see you, don't tell anybody because you don't know. And she used to put these like random stuff on my clothes. Like, this is to protect you from the bad wishes that people have. It's like, what is this? So my mum was very much about keep things to yourself because you don't know people's energy and how that can impact what you're trying to achieve. And I think, being in this world now that is very much about, the power of the internet and the power of being seen. For anyone that grew up in the same way as me, this is a huge adjustment. And like, it's definitely something that we are trying to catch up with. What would your advice be for kind of any women that are in a similar situation where they feel like being visible isn't something I was told to do? It's new to me. I'm scared of it. Like, what would your advice be?
My advice would be, we have to move with the times. And that era of our parents telling us that was their time. Now we're in our time and our children are going to be in a different time, and we have to move with the times. And then sometimes you have to understand why people are saying certain things that they're saying. Because I remember there was the story of the woman that when she used to put her chicken in the oven, she'll cut the legs of the chicken off and roast the chicken. And her daughter said to her mum, why is it every time you are roasting chicken, you cut the legs off the chicken? And she said, because my mum used to do that. So she went to ask the Gran, why do you cut the legs off the chicken when you put it in the oven? And she said, because her mum used to do that. But the reason why her mum used to do that, because back in the days of her mum, the ovens were a lot smaller. So the chicken couldn't fit in with the legs on. So they'd cut the legs off and put the chicken into roast. And that's what her daughter saw. So her daughter would now cut the legs off and put it in the oven. But without realizing that times have changed. The ovens are no longer that small anymore. Now ovens, you can put probably 2 or 3 chickens in,
Yeah.
but they were still cutting the legs off without realizing why they were doing it. So sometimes
Mm,
when we're telling our children to do certain stuff, we have to also look at times have changed. So what we're telling them to do, it worked for our time, but times have
yeah.
changed now. Now we're in an era. Well, now we're in an era of social media, and back in my day, I tell my children, back in our days, we didn't have mobile phones. We were using typewriters when I was in school. We didn't have computers because that wasn't out then. Now it is. So I say to parents, we have to educate ourselves so that we are in tune with what's going on and we
Mm,
can vibe with our children instead of them saying, oh, like you're old school and things like that, because we're still coming with the old school vibe. But women that were taught to probably not speak up. I mean, look around us now. Somebody goes missing. You put the picture on social media, people are looking for that person. Before
yeah.
you know it, the person is now found. But
Mm,
if you're not saying that a child is missing, and I remember there was, because anytime I see missing children and things like that, and because of what I do with the Listeners 101 app that I created for young people, I will post. So sometimes I will post, and I'll post on my WhatsApp when I see a missing person, that kind of thing. And I remember I was having a conversation with a guy, because we always talk about these things. And he was like, "Oh, did you hear about the other boy that went missing in so and so area?" I said, "I didn't hear about that one." He sent me the poster. I posted it on my WhatsApp status, and then my daughter messaged me and said, "Mom, that's my friend." And I said, "Well, he's missing." She said, "Oh." So she was now calling his phone, but it was just ringing. He didn't pick it
yeah.
up, but it was just ringing. So the phone was still ringing. It's active. So I said, "Oh." Then my other friend now messaged and said, "Oh, that's her friend's son." And I said, "Oh." So she was like, she didn't even know he was missing. It was the flyer
Mm,
that looked up, but it's a good friend. So the friend had not mentioned. She called the friend and said, "Oh," but the friend hadn't mentioned that the son was missing, kind of thing. So I said, "Oh," I said, "The type of person that my daughter is, she's always coming to the house with her friends from college and things like that." I said, "Imagine if she came to the house with this boy one day, and I'm just saying to her friends, 'Oh, hi, how are you?' And then he's gone. Next I'm hearing he's missing." And I didn't get that opportunity to say to him, "Look, at least call home, and even if
yeah.
you don't want to go home, at least call home and let your parents know that you're safe," kind of thing, and that kind of thing. But you won't, because people are not sharing information, and because you're not sharing
Mm,
information, because you've told not to talk your business and things like that, it can lead to your son being out there for longer, you not finding him. Whereas there might be people that know where he is, who he is, because now we're sharing. So we're sharing,
mm,
and you find that when you share things, other people are sharing it, so that people are, it's getting to people, and then hopefully it will get to the person for them to know that somebody's actually looking for them,
yeah,
kind of thing.
definitely.
So I think it's important that we do learn to speak up, we do learn to share things, because we're now in that age where it's not how it was. And a lot of the things that our parents, when they tell us, "Oh, don't speak, don't say," sometimes some of it is like superstitious stuff, and not that, because there'll be people that don't say anything. I remember, like, growing up, our parents will say, when you're pregnant, don't tell anybody for at least the first 3 months, so you go past the safe stage, but then we know that that's a sensitive stage anyway.
Yeah.
But with our parents, they're not always looking at it as a sensitive stage. If anything happens during that stage, somebody's done it to you, or it's
Yeah.
because you told somebody, like, kind of thing. Whereas you can go through and not tell anybody and it still happens. Then what are they going to
Mm,
say? Did
yeah.
somebody do it? Nobody knew, because you told us not to say anything. So you now can't put it on anybody. So I think sometimes it's, our parents were doing it back then because that's what they felt it that's how they felt it should be done, and what it could lead to if it wasn't. But we now know we're in an era where we have friends that we can trust, we have people that we can trust, so we can speak up more. And people are inspired when people are real. I always say to people, when people hear real stories, that's when people are inspired. If nobody's sharing their story, how are people going to be inspired? Everyone acts like everything's okay. Why? Because everyone's acting like everything's okay.
Yeah.
I remember I went on Facebook one day and I was talking about mental health, and I was talking about my sister, and the amount of people that DM'd me in my inbox when I came off that, they were like, "Oh my God, my niece is going through this. Thank you for sharing that," and this. But on Facebook, you would never know that That's what
Yeah.
they, and these are people that I've even known for so long, but it took them hearing somebody else's story, somebody else sharing on it, for them to now feel I've got somebody I can share it with now. I've got somebody I can talk to about it now. So I
No,
think sometimes,
definitely.
us being visible, speaking up, using our voice will help other people.
Definitely. I think the authenticity piece is massive. Like I remember like over the years as Instagram's grown, there'll be like people that I know that I'm also connected with on Instagram, and their Instagram life is completely different to their real life. And I'm
Yep.
like, I can't get on board with this. Like I can't be out here presenting something that's not real. But also, what are you doing to the poor people that are following you thinking this is goals? Like this is scary to me. Um, like, yes,
But you
just
see, the key
scary.
to that is don't watch what the other people are doing
Yeah,
on Instagram. You do what you need to
listen.
do on Instagram so that the people that are watching you are inspired by what you do. Because I always say
Yeah,
to people as well, Instagram, social media, people can be whoever they want to on social media. And it, because a lot of people don't verify. So if
yeah,
I go and stand in a showroom now next to the latest Range Rover, I can now take a picture and put up a post and just say God is good. God has been so good to me. Like, but I'm walking out of there not with the Range Rover. I'm walking out of there because I just took a picture with it. But that's what people can do, and that's what social media. I mean, who's going to now come to my house and verify that I bought that Range Rover? At the end there, apart from my friends that know me, that might come and say, "Oh, where's your Range Rover?" And I can turn around and say, "You know what? I didn't get it after all." But I've left the post on Instagram for everyone else to believe that that's what I bought and that's my car. So that's why you don't look at social media and focus on people's lives and what they're doing. Social
mm,
media, I say to for people, is focus on the business. Focus on the business of what people are sharing. Go on there because you want to find out certain stuff. You want to find, maybe different products and things like that. But people that are just posting about their lives and, like, yes, I went on holiday, that's their lives. Allow them, leave them if that's what they want to do. Even if they're not doing that, that's not your focus. Use social media for what you're using it for. I know some people just go on and just go and watch people and think, oh my God, this person is doing this. Oh my God, this person has this. But you know what? Go on there and use it. Use it to make yourself visible, your product visible, or use it to impact or inspire somebody or to motivate people.
yeah,
But use it in a way
definitely.
that the people that are following you and watching you are inspired by what you do.
Definitely. And I think like don't ever underestimate just how small something is that you're doing, but how impactful that could be for
Yeah.
somebody else. I know like anyone that listens to this podcast or follows me knows that I've had breast cancer. And I remember the first time that I decided to post about it publicly, I could just hear my mum's voice in my head. Like it's nobody's business. Why would you put that on the internet? Da, da, da. And I just remember when I was going through that time, nobody in my family had ever had it before. And I remember my mum saying, How? And then while I was going through my journey, I then found out that actually my auntie had it. But the whole time I was going through my treatment, she was checking up on me a lot, but she never told me she had it. And
Okay.
but
Okay.
they're very much of the generation of we don't claim it in Jesus's name. And don't get me wrong, I understand that too. I also don't claim it, but I had to
Hmm.
have chemo and radiotherapy. And if I had known someone in my family or someone close to me that had gone through that journey,
Hmm.
that would have just been amazing just to have someone to talk to about it, you know? And I think that's for me why I shared, because God is good all the time, right? But sometimes things are tricky. And I think it's also really important to understand that just because you see someone looking good or, being really cheerful, it doesn't mean the journey has been just chilled, like you can still have challenges and still come out of those a
Yes.
better version of who you were before. And I always also believe that like adversity, to me, it's like when diamonds are chiseled, like the chiseling process is messy, it's ugly, it's whatever, but it's the piece, it's the thing that you have at the end that
Yeah.
is the prize, and I feel like life is kind of like that. It chisels away at us to perfect us. So yeah, that just I do think it's important to be really authentic in sharing. And also I agree with you about be clear on what you're using the platform for. Like if the platform is for business, then that should be your focus. That's what you're posting about, right? The ups and the downs of business, and also a bit of life, so people know that you have a life outside of your business. But no, I definitely am going to take a lot of that advice, especially about, because I've got 3 Instagram accounts, believe it. One of them I've got 70 something followers. The other the other one is my business one. I think I've got 100 and something. I don't look at that one. And I don't look at the 70 something one either. But then I've got my personal one that is hidden. And that one is just my holiday shop, because it's my family and friends that see that. And I think it's important to differentiate, because sometimes things just get messy. But I do think being visible is so important, and it's
Yeah.
something that I have learnt probably over the last few years,
Hmm.
is just the need to be visible, particularly as women, particularly as Black women, because we don't talk about what we do enough. We don't kind of big ourselves up, because we're almost waiting for other people to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily the way forward, not to have the impact that some of us can have or could have. So if you were to round it up to someone that's like, okay, yeah, visibility is great, but why is it necessary? So if I'm on the border, or I'm on the cusp, and I'm, trying to achieve something, but I'm like, I'm just going to keep working in the background and plugging away at it. I don't think I want to be visible. I don't need to be. What would your word be to someone feeling or thinking that way?
I would say that the next generation need role models that they can look up to. Now, they're not going to have those role models if we tend to just want to be behind the scenes. We want to stay quiet, but you're doing something that is amazing. You're doing something that can
Mm,
inspire them and that kind of thing. It's everyone is not going to be at the forefront of a thing, but in order for something to happen, there are people that are making it happen. So everyone has a role that they play, and everyone's role that they're playing is important. The person that's behind the scenes doing the behind the scenes, she has a story to share. She has a
yeah,
story to share that somebody else that wants to do behind the scenes can be inspired by, and still be doing the behind the scenes and encouraging the next person. And I believe that in this world where people need mentors, role models, and things like that, we owe it to ourselves to be visible for the next generation to see and be inspired and be encouraged. So whatever it is that you're doing, don't look at it as though it's something small or it's something insignificant. You're doing something that's going to inspire and motivate the next person. So let them know what you're doing. Let them see what you're doing. People are making things happen. Like people might see the main face of a thing, but there are people that are making it happen, and those people are
yeah,
important. So when you share your story, people can think, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that person was doing that. And it just encourages and inspires the next person. So I believe that, you know, don't look at what you're doing as, I don't need to be visible with that. Be visible, but be visible in your own way. There's different ways to be visible. You don't have to be like the next person that is always out there and posting all this glamorous stuff. There's a way that you can do it that is still resonating with people and still letting people know what you do.
amazing. Thank you so much. So if Women for Africa 2025 is coming up, for anyone that wants to attend, how do they get tickets?
Well, tickets don't go on sale till next year, closer to the date. So we hold it in May. Tickets will probably start maybe in February. So yeah, so I would say that they follow Women for Africa on social media, because we'll always be updating. So I think the next thing that we'll probably be putting out there is the save the date, so that they have the date for next year's one. People can make sure they save that date because they'll know that date. And then just follow the social media, because everything will be put out there. All the updates, when nominations are open, how it's done, the process, and then we start revealing who they are right up until the awards. So yeah.
Amazing. And to work with you, so to work with you as a visibility coach, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, they follow me on social media and they look at when the next one's coming. Follow me on social media. I have my coaching page. It's Tola Onigbanjo. Mind you, I haven't been putting. I see. I have my coaching page, which is Tola Onigbanjo, and that's what I use when I'm doing a challenge or when I'm running a 30-day challenge and that kind of thing. So I don't show up on that one as much, because I show up on my main Wise Tola page, and then, like, manage my other social media pages that I have. So those ones are being very visible. Whereas Tola Onigbanjo, the visibility coach page, is not being as visible because she's being visible in the other places that she needs to be. But when a challenge is coming up, it comes up on that page, but it still comes up on my other pages though.
Amazing. I'll be following both pages today because I want to do this challenge, she says. But I do want to do it. I'm just scared of it. But being scared is good. Tola, thank you so much for today. I know personally I've taken so much away from this in terms of just confidence about visibility, the Instagram and social media aspect, and just obviously just the great work that you're doing. So thank you so much for your time and sharing today.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.